Sexual assault survivors stand vigil to demand a dialogue. Organizer John Vaughn on what he hopes to accomplish. The struggle over elections past and future. We'll talk about efforts to change how Michiganders vote. Plus, the plan to bring an HBCU back to Detroit. Today is Sunday, October 17th, 2021, and this is Flashpoint.
Hello and welcome to Flashpoint. I'm Jason Colthorpe. Devin is off this week. You know who else wishes he was out of town this week? U of M President Mark Schlissel. A protest has gone on outside his house on campus because of Dr. Robert Anderson's abuse. We'll talk with the survivor who is camping out there about why this protest and one of the attorneys who are on the case to find out where things stand there. And somehow there is still an effort to review the results of the last presidential election in Michigan. We'll talk about the latest movements and what might happen to voters here in Michigan. And the state's first historically black college is making a comeback to Detroit after nearly a decade away. Coming up, we'll talk to two of the men key to making that happen. Let's get started this morning on Flashpoint. Joining us now, former Michigan football star John Vaughn. He played from 1988 to 1990 and endured more than 50 unnecessary invasive exams from Dr. Robert Anderson, as well as other abuses. Ben Johnson is also here, and he represents several former athletes. John, let me start with you. As we tape this, you are now more than a week, I believe you're 8 days into your protest outside President Schlissel's house. Why this protest? Why now?
I actually hit a week, 7 o'clock tonight, and it's interesting. The more hours I count, the more it becomes evident that, one, the president is not protecting the students on campus, and two, he has no regard for the past and the 2,100 plus survivors of this atrocity that was committed and enabled by the University of Dr. Anderson.
We should point out, too, that quickly that, as we've said, that upon legal advice, the president has been advised not to talk to you. And I know you want to sit down with the president or the Board of Regents. But, of course, with the mediation, they're advising them not to do that. Are you more angry at the current administration or the ones from the past, where the ones who could have stopped Robert Anderson?
I think they're all just as guilty, because this administration could have stopped the cover-up, but it didn't. And how not only the Board of Regents and the Office of the President has responded is ridiculous. And they didn't want to talk, don't talk to me. But 95% of the voices speaking to the president on Thursday night were students, and they're concerned for lack of safety on this campus. So, fine, don't talk to John Vaughn. We can't change what happened to us, but the students were standing in solidarity with us and we with them, because the same thing that we went, sexual assault, rape, sexual abuse, and no one there to listen to us or protect us, is the same thing that's going on here today. So I think that statement, full of lies, they had no intentions of doing the right thing. I think they're saying what they're saying because ultimately they got caught in the largest sexual abuse, rape, and cover-up in the history of sports.
Yeah. Wednesday night you had was a big protest vigil out there, and you were joined by several people, other survivers. And I know Chuck Christian's out there with you now. What did it mean to have all that support on Wednesday night?
It meant a tremendous amount, because, I mean, when have you seen so many victims of so many atrocities standing not only for each other, but also there for the current and the future students of America? I mean, it was a very touching moment.
Yeah. I want to bring in Ben Johnson now real quick for a moment. And Ben, you, at last check, correct me if I'm wrong, I know you represent it was 19 former basketball players and one non-athlete. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. You might be off by one or two, but you're right on, Jason.
Yeah. Tell me where the case stands at this moment.
Well, we're involved in a mediation, which is a settlement process. It is confidential, so obviously can't discuss it. But what's happened is a number of the cases are actually filed in the federal courthouse here in Detroit, the United States District Court, Eastern District of Michigan, and Judge Victoria Roberts is presiding. And the parties are still trying to see whether they can ever come up with a resolution, and either they will within the next few months or they won't. And if they don't, then it's going to go back into court, and many motions will be filed and many other court battles will ensue.
Yeah. Now, a little while ago, a couple weeks ago, we heard, I think it was actually a week and a half ago, a tape came out of President Schlissel from last December. I don't know if you're familiar with this, where he...
Oh, I heard it, brother. I heard it.
Yeah. How much do you, when he said that these are credible claims, what does that do to the case? I know it's mediation, but if mediation falls apart and they go back to litigation and try to dismiss the case like they had done before, how damaging is that statement?
Well, it's the truth. He knows it's horrible. He knows they're responsible. And yet, of course, we will use that. And it's called an admission under the law that they know that they are responsible and that they could have and should have done more, just like John was talking about and other survivors have been talking about for years. And so, yes, that will be utilized, but even just important, we have to remember that, and not even a year ago, Jason, you and I have talked about this before, they had this, the Wilmer Hale report. So U of M hires a, quote, independent, end quote, law firm to investigate and found that they all knew and or should have known and done something about this and didn't. So this is really no news. The only news is, and I agree with John Vaughn completely, is it's time right now for the Board of Regents and U of M to step up and admit that they are at fault and that they will take full responsibility and compensate these survivors, period.
Yeah. John, you brought up the past, Ven. I want to bring John back in here. You've talked about Bo Schembechler with mixed feelings, both with reverence and also with some blame. Explain that to me.
Well, ultimately, as I said before, there was no way that he didn't know. And it was proven that he did know. And ultimately, if he held us to a certain standard of ethics, morals, and his code of conduct, we too should be able to hold him to that same standard. As simple as that.
Yeah.
Period.
And before I let you go, John, I have to ask you, how long do you plan to go out there? You've been there more than a week now. How long are you going to carry on this protest?
Until the job is done. I'm meeting with the, president of the student board today at 4. I'm meeting with a group of professors. There's an issue here on this campus, and collectively we as survivors know that we will have resolution and cannot change what happened to us. But if I may, just take a quick second. On the second day that I was out here, where I knew how acute the situation was and the lack of responsibility and leadership we have in the office of the president, is I had a young lady student say to me, I spend more time on this campus thinking about the next time I'm going to get raped or sexually abused than I do about figuring out my major, because when I reported to the administration, they ignored me. And today, just talking to you, I feel safer than I ever have at this university. This is a university-wide problem that they have been embroiled in the culture of sexual abuse and rape for over half a century.
Yeah.
So when the job is done, then I will go home.
John, good luck out there. Ven, thank you for joining me and for both of you guys. By the way, in response to the protest, a university statement reads in part, at the University of Michigan, we are working every single day to make our campus safer for every member of our community. We are also working toward fair compensation for the Anderson survivors through the confidential court-supervised mediation process that is continuing. Out of respect for that process, there is nothing more we are able to share. We'll be right back.
It's nice to know your blind spot can be protected. Blind Spot Monitor, standard on all 2021 Volkswagen SUVs, unlike all Honda or Subaru SUVs. Come into your Volkswagen dealer today and lease the sophisticated and capable 2021 Tiguan S4Motion for just $279 a month.
HAP has been part of the Michigan community since 1960, and we're here with Medicare Advantage plans designed just for you. With benefits like dental, hearing aids, over-the-counter allowance, transportation, travel coverage, and telehealth. Call 888-889-2655 to learn more and get your free Medicare benefits guide. Hurry, Medicare enrollment ends December 7th. HAP Medicare Advantage. Made in Michigan, for Michigan.
A progressive jackpot that grows with every play. That's what makes Fast Cash from the Michigan Lottery such a thrilling game. The progressive jackpot keeps building and building and building until jackpot. Fast Cash. The fun keeps building.
You've got enough to think about maintaining. Good thing the 2021 Volkswagen Jetta has a lower cost of maintenance than Toyota Corolla. Come into your Volkswagen dealer today and lease the sporty, driver-inspired 2021 Jetta S for just $189 a month.
This pandemic is taking its toll, and just like you, I worry about getting my kids through it.
No one could have anticipated this coming up, and so everyone's world's been turned upside down, especially for children and teens.
I want my kids to be tough, resilient, and strong.
Because we're not going to be around for those very, very tough moments and ways to exit tough situations.
From the change you can make to your nightly routine to who you can encourage your children to talk to, how to make your children problem solvers, Monday morning at 6:30 a.m.
A couple of pushes are in full swing that take aim at past and future elections in Michigan. Joining me to talk about it are the co-host of It's Just Politics on Michigan Radio, Zoe Clark, and political reporter on the Capitol Beat for Bridge, Michigan, Jonathan Osting. Let's start with the Secure My Vote initiative. And Jonathan, you've written extensively about this. Michigan, for people that this might ring a bell, we have a voter ID law. So what does this initiative aim to do?
That's right. So Michigan does have a voter ID law, but it includes sort of an exception. In-person voters right now who go to the polls without an ID can still cast a ballot by signing an affidavit of identity, saying they are who they claim to be, and if they lie on that, they're caught lying on that, it's punishable by up to 5 years in prison. What this initiative would do is basically eliminate that affidavit option for in-person voters. They would no longer have that option. It would also require absentee ballot applicants to include an ID number or the last 4 digits of their social security number on their mailed-in application when they're sending it in. And then it would do a couple other things like prohibit the Secretary of State from mailing out applications for absentee ballots unless they're requested, and it would bar outside funding from third-party groups for election administration.
Did your most recent article mention that this could also ban volunteers? Is that right?
Yeah, so that last bit I mentioned about the prohibition on assistance from third-party groups would also prohibit what's called in-kind contributions. Those are generally anything of value that aren't actually money. So clerks are very concerned that could ban volunteers of all kinds, retirees who come into the office and help, stuff envelopes for election mailers and things of that sort. It would also, and the Secure My Vote committee acknowledges this, it would prohibit clerks from using donated church space as polling locations. So a lot of clerks do take advantage of free space in churches to host voting centers on election day. This would ban that. It wouldn't ban churches altogether from being polling places, but would require clerks to pay for those polling locations if they're going to use them. So ostensibly it would raise costs for clerks who currently, benefit from free labor and free space.
Yeah, and the why is obviously, is it simply to get around, and I'll bring Zoe in on this, this is simply, both of these are to get around the governor's veto, correct?
Yes, I mean, we know that the governor is going to veto very soon, likely now that it's passed both the state House and the state Senate. Bills passed by Republicans who have a majority in both of those chambers that are doing very, very similar. In fact, language almost exactly to the ballot, just passed by the House this week and last week by the Senate. But look, as Jonathan has written about and many smart people in Lansing have said, this is what Republicans want. They want this governor to veto it. It brings the attention to this issue. And then folks who are, looking to get the 340,000 plus signatures on the Secure Michigan can say, the governor isn't going to do it. This is what we have to do to basically, because Michigan has this constitutional quirk, be able to circumvent her if enough signatures are gathered.
Zoe, another initiative is by Trump supporters to get a full forensic audit of the last presidential election. It even came with a rally that included some lawmakers at the Capitol. I guess the key word here is forensic. How would this audit be different than the 250 plus audits already completed? Anybody know the answer to that?
Well, right. And let's be very clear, there isn't such a legal terminology of forensic audit. As many folks have said in the past, these are two words that many people think sound good together. And so they have been put together. As we saw in Arizona, millions of dollars was spent only to basically show that Trump got fewer votes. But yes, indeed, there was a rally, up to about 1,000 people. Jonathan was there amongst other Trump supporters, and this is sort of what they see as the next step. We should say that State Representative Steve Carra, who has already said he's running for Congress, introduced a bill that would do this in, again, the Republican-led state House. That bill has been basically designated to a committee where bills go to die. So it doesn't even look like, Republican leadership is interested in this, at least at the Capitol in Lansing. But no, this is the rallying cries. We need a forensic audit. But like you say, there have already been hundreds of those, including by both Democrats and Republicans here in Michigan who are clerks.
So, Republican gubernatorial candidates have started weighing in on this. I know James Craig, the former Detroit police chief, switched to say he's now in favor of audits of the last election. Tudor Dixon, a Republican candidate for governor, stayed away from saying the last election was stolen. But she seemed to point the finger at Jocelyn Benson for changing the rules. Jonathan, do you feel that this is all going to end up playing a huge role in the governor's race?
Yeah, certainly it will. James Craig, of course, had sort of shied away from questions about former President Trump's mostly unsubstantiated and false claims about the 2020 election here in Michigan. But by backing this call for a presidential audit, he's at least signaling to both Trump, whose endorsement he would like, and Trump supporters that he will, sort of align with them for these sort of calls to again review the election. So that's a big one because Craig is the presumed front runner right now for the Republican nomination. That said, nothing is settled in that primary. But a lot of the candidates, Tudor Dixon you mentioned, and others have all supported this call for a forensic audit. As Zoe mentions, though, the state legislature, the Republican leadership there is not. I mean, the Senate Oversight Committee, of course, months ago came out with a report debunking many of Trump's claims and saying, there's no evidence of widespread fraud and voters should actually trust the results of the 2020 election.
I'm going to have to leave it right there. Jonathan, Zoe, always great to talk to you guys. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
And we're right back on Flashpoint.
A supercharged Steelers defense meets an electric Seahawks offense. Yeah! It's play to thrill. Seahawks, Steelers, Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock.
Brought to you on Local 4 by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
In business, setbacks change everything. So get Comcast Business Internet and add Security Edge. It helps keep your network safe by scanning for threats every 10 minutes. And unlike some cybersecurity options, this helps protect every connected device. Yours, your employees, and even your customers. so you can stay ahead.
Get started with a great offer and ask how to add Comcast Business Security Edge. Want even more speed? Find out how to get 10 gigs for your small business. Call today.
42 million Americans struggle with hunger. Yet 35% of the food in America is wasted. The Kroger Company's Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation is working to create communities free of hunger and waste. Together, we can help end hunger. Learn more at zerohungerzerowastefoundation.org.
Why do we connect with a story? Whether it's something utterly relatable or something extraordinary, the most affecting stories have something in common. They're about us, about humanity and the ties that bind us together, in big ways and small ways. It's why Local 4 is here, to share the moments that keep us connected to each other. It's why, in this moment, local news has never been more important.
Welcome back. Michigan's only HBCU, the Lewis College of Business, closed in 2013. This week brought an announcement of plans to reopen with a design focus. It's the brainchild of Dr. Wayne Edwards, a noted footwear designer and founder of Pencil Design Academy in Oregon. He joins us this morning along with Dr. Don Tusky, the president of the College for Creative Studies, which will be a partner in this undertaking. Guys, thanks for being here. Wayne, let me start with you. I love how you tell your story, and just you were blessed with being born with the ability to draw whatever you see. As your life moved along here, when and how did the idea for this project first come to you?
You mean the project of coming to Detroit for Lewis College of Business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it started with a Pencil alum and Detroit native by the name of Alan Largen. We were having just a general conversation around diversity in education. And Alan's also a CCS grad. And he casually mentioned, like, hey, Detroit used to have an HBCU. And as soon as he planted that seed, I just started jumping online and Googling, and eventually got in touch with the family. And we entered into an agreement to bring the college back. They tried unsuccessfully for the last 8 years. And they liked what, we were looking to do and evolve for the college, and wanted us they gave us their blessing to move forward.
Don, let me ask you, how will CCS help facilitate this reopening?
Well, first of all, I had known Dwayne when I was in Portland, Oregon, and so we collaborated a little bit in Portland, Oregon. And so when I got to Detroit here, where I'm from the area originally, I stayed in contact with Dwayne, and I also got to meet Alan Largen. And so when Dwayne started talking to me about Lewis College, I started thinking about, okay, in terms of how we could be a part of that, because we're accredited, and Lewis College of Business's original building is on our campus. And so there's a lot of really good positive connections. And we thought it was important, being Detroit ourselves, to help support bringing back an HBCU and in collaborating with Dwayne and Pencil Academy.
Obviously, it's been a struggle to get to this point. Don, let me ask you, what do you think the challenges going forward are going to be?
Well, right now, it was really great to have the announcement on Tuesday and to let the public know that we're working on this. So a lot of it will be seeing how our two curriculums can support one another, making sure that we get the word out there that we have even more footwear design in Detroit. Since we're accredited, there's some curricular things we need to do and some accreditation things, but it's really a lot of organization and collaboration. We're calling this a joint venture, and I know Dr. Edwards is really interested in stackable certificates, as we are, and more ways that students can go to college affordably and get a degree or create a career. And I think the exciting thing is that this is going to open up a lot of new possibilities for a wider range of students, locally certainly, but also nationally and internationally.
Dwayne, when you think about what this is going to mean for a kid growing up in Detroit and they see what you did, your story, do you envision someone like that being able, this opens a door that might not have been there for some kids?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up with no internet, man. Like, I didn't grow up with a cell phone in my hand. And so I think they have a head start just from that. But yes, being able to create that pathway, being able to give them a linear view of what's possible through the lens of people who look like them, who've done it for decades, that means a lot to these kids' confidence, and hopefully it means a lot also to their parents to allow them to pursue a creative career. Most of the time, if you're not in a creative career, then you kind of discourage your youth from pursuing it because there's an assumption that's an unstable career path, right? And I like to argue that designers will always have a job because everything you see, everything you wear, drive, people designed it. And so I think it's just educating the youth and also the parents for them to understand that there's opportunity for their kids who have a creative passion.
I have 1 minute left. I want to pose this to both of you. Dwayne, I'll start with you. What do you see in 15 to 20 years that this announcement, this decision, what's the effect going to be down the road?
I hope one part, I hope the increased awareness of what's possible for these kids. They need to see they can do something other than run, jump, and dunk. And if they can understand that they can do more things besides what they currently see, then we'll see unbelievable possibilities that will impact generations after. Don,
unbelievable possibilities, is that right?
Yeah, more ways for students to create careers in art and design, and more accessible for a wider range of students, local students and beyond, to have a great art and design career. And as Dr. Edwards said, that the world needs more design, and we think we can provide that to a wider range of students.
It certainly is exciting, not just the announcement, but thinking about what can be now for the city of Detroit and a lot of the kids around this area. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I'd like to also thank all my guests this morning, and thank you for joining us. Devin will be back next week. Meet the Press is next, right after Mitch Albom's Heart of Detroit. Well, have a great Sunday.